The security detention room at Hartford International Airport resembled an interrogation cell from a crime show. Stark white walls, a metal table bolted to the floor, and a single uncomfortable chair facing a two-way mirror. Zara was shoved inside, her balance compromised by the handcuffs still digging into her wrists. The door slammed behind her with finality, leaving her alone with the throbbing pain and growing anxiety about missing her MIT interview. 10 minutes passed in isolated silence before the door swung open again, revealing Security Chief Dennis Reynolds, a bull-like man with close-cropped gray hair and cold eyes that assessed Zara as if she were a criminal specimen rather than a high school student. "Sit down," he barked, dropping a file on the table with theatrical force. Zara complied, wincing as the movement sent fresh pain shooting through her lacerated wrists. "I need medical attention," she stated calmly. "My wrists are bleeding." Reynolds ignored her, flipping open the file with exaggerated importance. "Quite a performance you put on up there," he said with a smirk. "Theft, intimidation, disruptive behavior, refusing crew instructions. That's enough to put you on the no-fly list permanently, not to mention criminal charges." "None of that happened," Zara replied evenly. "I had a valid first-class ticket that was given to someone else. My laptop fell during turbulence and was falsely claimed as stolen. Everything else is fabrication." Reynolds laughed, the sound entirely without humor. "That's not what the flight crew and witnesses say. We have multiple statements confirming you were belligerent and threatening." He pushed a form across the table. "Sign this confession and we might be able to reduce the charges since you're a juvenile." "I won't sign anything that isn't true, and I won't be intimidated into a false confession. I need medical attention and my legal right to contact my father." Blood had now soaked through the cuff of her blazer, dripping onto the metal table. Reynolds' eyes flickered to the blood, then away, unconcerned. "You think you're special, don't you? That the rules don't apply to you?" This attitude is exactly what the flight crew reported. The door opened again and a younger officer entered, female with dark hair pulled into a tight bun and a nameplate reading, "Taylor Jackson." She carried a first aid kit. "Sir, protocol requires medical attention for any detainee with visible injuries," she said quietly. Reynolds glared at her but nodded curtly. "Make it quick, Jackson. We have a report to file." As Officer Jackson gently removed the handcuffs and began cleaning Zara's wounds, their eyes met briefly. Something in Jackson's expression suggested she wasn't entirely comfortable with the situation. While Jackson worked, Reynolds aggressively searched through Zara's belongings spread across the table. Her organized notes for the MIT interview, her laptop with engineering designs, her phone, all examined with suspicious scrutiny. When he found her MIT acceptance letter and formal interview invitation, he paused, clearly surprised. "Engineering scholarship interview. This has to be fake," he muttered, though doubt had crept into his voice for the first time. "It's legitimate," Zara said. "I was on my way to an interview for their aerospace engineering program. I need to contact them about this delay." Officer Jackson looked up from bandaging Zara's wrists. "Sir, that does appear to be an official MIT letterhead." The confirmation of Zara's academic status introduced the first major crack in Reynolds's confidently fabricated narrative. This was not the profile of a petty criminal. Reynolds frowned but quickly recovered. "Irrelevant. An honor student can still be a thief or a security risk. Her phone now." He snatched the phone and began scrolling through it. "I am formally requesting my one phone call now," Zara stated, her voice regaining its strength as Officer Jackson finished the bandaging. "I am a minor and I have a right to contact my legal guardian." Reynolds hesitated, glancing at Officer Jackson, who confirmed with a subtle nod. "Fine, but I will monitor the call and it must be brief." "Who do you need to call?" "My father," Zara replied. Reynolds dialed the number Zara provided. As the phone began to ring, he lifted his head in surprise, noticing the unfamiliar contact label. "Wait, this number is labeled Marcus W. Private Line Urgent." The call connected. A calm, deep voice answered. "Williams. Sir, this is Security Chief Dennis Reynolds at Hartford International. We have your daughter Zara, detained for theft and interfering with a flight crew. We're filing criminal charges." The silence on the line was chilling, far heavier than the sound of Reynolds's voice. Then, Marcus Williams spoke. His tone was not angry or even worried, but possessed a quiet, immense authority that instantly commanded attention. Chief Reynolds, this is Marcus Williams. You will immediately release my daughter from custody, and you will place flight attendant Rebecca Whitman and Chief Purser Brian Mitchell under temporary detention for filing false reports and assault. Reynolds blinked, momentarily stunned. Mr. Williams, I don't know who you think you are, but you can't issue orders here. We have statements from multiple. I am Marcus Williams, CEO and Chairman of Aurora Global Airlines. The voice cut in, each word delivered with the weight of absolute power. You may check the name against the ownership registry for Aurora Global Holdings, which controls Aurora Airlines. Your current employment agreement is directly with my company. You are now acting against the personal directive of the company's ultimate authority. I suggest you reconsider your next action very carefully. A palpable wave of shock swept the small room. Officer Jackson gasped and quickly backed away from the table. Reynolds's ruddy face went completely pale as he frantically searched his memory for the name, Marcus Williams, and the legendary, fiercely private executive who owned their entire corporate ecosystem. I apologize, Mr. Williams, I wasn't aware. The crew, Reynolds stammered, his bravado gone, replaced by naked panic. I am fully aware of the crew's actions, Chief. Marcus's voice hardened. We have dozens of passenger video recordings of the entire incident, including explicit racial slurs used by Ms. Whitman. This is not a misunderstanding. This is a federal civil rights violation and a criminal conspiracy to cover it up, executed on my aircraft. Sir, I can release her immediately, and you will not release her until she has been seen by a doctor and given a formal, documented apology by the person responsible for her injuries. That person is you, Chief Reynolds, for allowing this to happen in your facility. You have 5 minutes to comply or your entire department will be terminated by the time the plane lands back in Baltimore. I've already dispatched a company jet with our legal team and the head of corporate security to Hartford. They will arrive in 90 minutes. I suggest you cooperate with them fully. The line clicked dead. Reynolds stood frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear, sweat beading on his forehead. He slowly placed the phone down, his eyes wide and fixed on Zara. He had just threatened to jail the daughter of his ultimate boss. The room had shifted from a place of intimidation to a silent, terrifying judgment chamber. The silence was broken only by the sound of Reynolds swallowing hard. The weight of his impending unemployment and possibly legal exposure had crushed his arrogance. Officer Jackson, he rasped, his voice trembling. Take the young lady to the medical station immediately. Get photos of her injuries. Then you will personally escort Flight Attendant Whitman and Chief Purser Mitchell off the aircraft and hold them for questioning. Inform them that the CEO has ordered a full corporate security investigation. Officer Jackson, who had witnessed the entire dramatic exchange, moved with a speed and clarity that had been absent before. She helped Zara to her feet. Come with me, ma'am. Let's get those wrists treated. As they left the room, Reynolds grabbed a towel and began violently wiping the sweat from his neck, muttering to himself, The CEO? Marcus Williams. Why didn't anyone know? The scene that unfolded back at the aircraft was one of immediate chaotic justice. Rebecca Whitman and Brian Mitchell were basking in the glow of their perceived victory over the troublesome passenger, confidently preparing to deplane and file their paperwork. They were quickly intercepted by Officer Jackson and another uniformed officer. You're being detained for questioning, Jackson stated curtly. Detained? For what? Rebecca scoffed. We followed protocol. That girl was a threat. The CEO of Aurora Global Airlines, Marcus Williams, has ordered a full investigation into alleged civil rights violations and filing false reports. The other officer informed them. He is Zara Williams' father. The shock on Rebecca's face was instantaneous and profound. Her practiced superior smile dissolved into utter disbelief, then fear. The CEO's daughter? Meanwhile, the company jet was indeed airborne, carrying Marcus Williams' most trusted crisis management team. Marcus, sitting in the office of his chief counsel in Baltimore, was reviewing the passenger footage that had already been uploaded to a secure corporate server. The videos were damning, showing Rebecca's refusal to check Zara's ticket, her contemptuous gaze, and the undeniable moment where she whispered the racial slurs. Within the hour, Aurora Global Airlines issued a devastatingly brief public statement. We are appalled by the conduct that took place on Flight 1824 and the actions of personnel in Hartford, which do not reflect the values of Aurora Global Airlines. We have placed the entire flight crew and the Hartford security team involved on immediate, unpaid leave pending criminal and internal investigation. We apologize unreservedly to Ms. Zara Williams and are taking every measure to ensure justice is served. The statement, combined with the rapidly circulating passenger videos, created a media firestorm. The hashtags #Justice for Zara and her CEO daughter trended globally, forcing the conversation beyond simple discrimination to focus on systemic abuse of power, no matter the victim's social standing. Over the next few days, the incident became a case study in corporate accountability. The system that had protected Rebecca and Reynolds for years now turned on them with brutal efficiency. Rebecca Whitman and Brian Mitchell were not only terminated but faced criminal charges for assault and filing false reports. Edward Keller, the entitled businessman who had taken Zara's seat, was banned for life from Aurora Airlines after his history of aggressive behavior and use of racial slurs on other flights came to light through the internal investigation. For Zara, the physical scars from the handcuffs were minor, but the emotional impact was profound. Marcus, true to his philosophy, handled the fallout with dignity, refusing any financial settlement. Instead, he demanded structural change. He met with the FAA to propose new mandatory anti-discrimination training standards for all airline employees and security personnel. He mandated the installation of new high-definition, tamper-proof surveillance cameras on all Aurora aircraft. He even established a civil rights audit division within Aurora Airlines, hiring independent experts to regularly review operational data for patterns of racial profiling. Zara did eventually make it to her MIT interview, delayed, but with the support of the university, which had been made fully aware of the circumstances. She later recounted the experience to her father. They were also apologetic, Dad. But I told them the whole story, not just the arrest, but the check-in, the security line, the whispers. I told them that even with your last name, I was still just a black girl, and that was enough to put me in handcuffs. And what did you tell them you would do with that truth? Marcus asked. Zara looked at him, her eyes reflecting the quiet strength that had carried her through the detention room. I told them I wanted to design aircraft systems that track and flag crew members with disproportionately high passenger complaints based on demographic data. I told them I was going to engineer fairness into the system. Marcus smiled, a rare, genuine expression of pride. That's my girl. Success without earning respect is hollow, but success used to enforce respect. That is justice. The incident became known as the one phone call case. It cost several careers, forced major policy changes at a multi-billion-dollar company, and sparked a national dialogue about how unchecked power operates in everyday spaces. For Zara, the honor student who went from first class to handcuffs, it was the ultimate painful and powerful lesson in what it truly means to be a daughter of privilege and a woman of color in America. What happens when the system designed to protect you is the same one that tries to break you. Zara Williams proved that the truth, when spoken with composure and backed by integrity, is the ultimate force against systemic arrogance. She didn't just survive the humiliation. She used it to fundamentally change the way an entire airline operates. Have you ever had to draw on unexpected inner strength when facing profound injustice? Let us know in the comments below. The private jet ride to Cambridge gave Zara and her father, Marcus Williams, precious time to compare notes and analyze the situation more deeply. With Marcus's security team working remotely, they had access to resources most victims of discrimination could only dream about. Digital forensics experts tracing communications, legal teams preparing documents, and data analysts combing through patterns of similar incidents. This wasn't random, Zara said, reviewing the evidence displayed on their tablets. The red mark on my boarding pass, the coordinated staff response, Keller's presence, it was all orchestrated. Marcus nodded grimly. Look at this communication timeline, he said, pointing to a complex diagram. Rebecca Whitman received text messages from an unknown number 30 minutes before your boarding, identifying you specifically. As they dug deeper, a disturbing picture emerged. Multiple employees across different positions had received instructions about Zara's travel. Someone with extensive knowledge of airline operations had engineered her humiliation. There's Keller again, Zara pointed out, finding his name in another communication chain. But who is he working for? Marcus's expression darkened. Victor Preston, CEO of Skyway Airlines, my chief competitor, and a man who's fought against every diversity initiative I've implemented in the industry. He pulled up a photo of a stern-faced white man in his $60, silver-haired, expensively dressed, with cold eyes. Preston has been losing market share since we launched our expanded routes to historically underserved communities. He's also on record opposing my appointment as the first black CEO of a major airline. As their investigation continued, they uncovered a complex web of industry espionage and racial animus. Preston's team had not only targeted Zara for harassment, but had planned to use the ensuing scandal to derail Marcus's upcoming diversity initiative. Announcement and damage Aurora's reputation. Among minority travelers, they knew exactly who you were, Marcus realized with horror. This wasn't about mistaken identity. They targeted you precisely because you're my daughter. The MIT interview still loomed, now just hours away. Despite everything, Zara remained determined to attend. I won't let them take this opportunity from me too, she insisted. I've worked too hard. You'll attend the interview and you'll be brilliant, Marcus said. But afterward, we need to decide how to respond to this attack. We have options. We could handle this quietly, use our influence to ensure those responsible are punished while avoiding publicity. Zara shook her head decisively. No, that's what they're counting on. That we'll use our privilege to make this go away. If we do that, it solves nothing for the countless people who face this discrimination every day, without the resources to fight back. She straightened in her seat, her expression resolute. This wasn't just an attack on me or on Aurora Airlines. This was an attack on the fundamental right of people to be treated with dignity, regardless of their skin color. We need to fight this publicly, transparently, and completely. As they developed their strategy, Zara's phone buzzed with a news alert. Her heart sank as she read the headline, entitled CEO's Daughter Causes Flight Diversion Claims Discrimination. Preston's team had moved faster than anticipated, already spinning a counter-narrative that portrayed Zara as privileged and demanding. The article included quotes from supposed witnesses describing her behavior as aggressive and entitled. They're trying to control the narrative, Marcus observed grimly, and they have media contacts we don't. The battle for public opinion had begun, and Preston was playing to win. Despite the media assault already underway, Zara arrived at MIT with determination etched into every line of her face. Marcus had arranged for campus security to ensure no reporters could interfere with her interview. Professor Eleanor Chen, head of MIT's Aerospace Engineering Department, greeted Zara with a warm handshake and perceptive eyes that immediately noted her bandaged wrists. Ms. Williams, we've been following the news. Are you certain you wouldn't prefer to reschedule? Thank you for your consideration, Professor Chen, but I've been preparing for this opportunity for years. I'm ready. For the next 2 hours, Zara immersed herself in the technical discussion, presenting her designs for more efficient propulsion systems with the clarity and confidence that had earned her perfect scores. She answered complex questions about thrust ratios and fuel efficiency, her mind temporarily freed from the weight of discrimination as she engaged with pure engineering principles. Remarkable work, Ms. Williams, Professor Chen said as the interview concluded. Your approach to the orbital calculation was unlike anything we've seen from an undergraduate applicant. The momentary triumph faded quickly as Zara exited the building to find her father looking grim. Preston's team has escalated, he explained. Skyway Airlines had called an emergency press conference where Victor Preston himself, silver-haired and patrician, expressed deep concern about the preferential treatment being given to the incident. While we respect Aurora Airlines' internal processes, Preston told the assembled reporters, we find it troubling that basic security protocols are being undermined based on family connections. The strategy was as transparent as it was effective. By positioning himself as a defender of equal treatment, Preston was twisting the narrative completely. Doctored video clips began circulating online, edited to remove the context of Zara's calm compliance. They've planted people claiming to be witnesses from the flight, Marcus explained as their car navigated through Cambridge. 3 individuals have given interviews describing your behavior as disruptive, though our passenger manifest shows none of them were actually on board. Then, their phones buzzed simultaneously with a news alert. Preston had announced a commitment to unbiased safety standards in the form of a new security training program. directly competing with the diversity initiative Marcus had planned to unveil the following week. "He's trying to steal your initiative while destroying its credibility," Zara observed. Marcus nodded grimly. "It never was just about you. You were just the vehicle he chose to attack everything we've built." As they strategized their response, neither noticed the black sedan that had been following their car since leaving, but further evidence that Preston's operation extended far beyond a single flight incident. The lawsuit Zara and Marcus filed sent shockwaves through the airline industry. Their legal team submitted comprehensive claims against multiple parties: Skyway Airlines for corporate espionage and civil rights violations, Aurora employees Rebecca Whitman and Brian Mitchell for discrimination and falsifying reports, Hartford Airport Security for excessive force and rights violations, and Victor Preston personally for orchestrating the entire campaign. The filing included forensic evidence of the coordinated attack, including timestamps of communications and sworn statements from passengers who had recorded the incident. The core of their legal argument was that the targeting of Zara was not an isolated incident of racism, but a malicious, anti-competitive act orchestrated at the highest executive levels. Preston, however, was prepared. His legal team responded aggressively, filing a motion to dismiss, claiming the suit was frivolous and retaliatory, and accusing Marcus Williams of abusing his corporate power for personal vendetta. The media war intensified, with both sides using every available channel to sway public opinion. Zara, refusing to remain silent, utilized her social media presence not to respond to the slurs, but to present evidence. She uploaded a clean, full-length copy of a passenger's video, juxtaposed against the doctored clip with a simple caption: "Which version is the truth? I trust your judgment." The unfiltered minute-by-minute account of her calm compliance and the crew's escalating aggression was undeniable. Meanwhile, the investigation into Edward Keller deepened. Marcus's corporate security uncovered that Keller was not just a VP at Skyway Airlines, but had a history of being used as a corporate fixer by Victor Preston. His first-class ticket, which had displaced Zara, had been personally approved by Preston's office, confirming his role as a plant in the conspiracy. The next major breakthrough came from an unexpected source: Officer Taylor Jackson. Horrified by Reynolds' behavior and the clear corporate abuse, Jackson contacted Zara's legal team, providing an internal security log that proved Reynolds had ordered the aircraft security footage to be remotely wiped, an order that was, fortunately, too late to execute before Marcus had secured the data. This evidence of attempted destruction of federal evidence was the linchpin. It transformed the case from a civil rights complaint into a criminal investigation of conspiracy and obstruction of justice, immediately drawing the attention of the FBI. The day the FBI served search warrants on the corporate headquarters of Skyway Airlines and Victor Preston's private residence, the media narrative shattered. The image of the sophisticated CEO was replaced by that of a desperate executive, cornered by federal investigators. The full aircraft footage, secured and preserved by Marcus Williams' team, was eventually released. It was damning. It showed Rebecca Whitman's exchange with Keller, her racial slur clearly visible on lip-reading analysis, and Reynolds' frantic, post-call attempts to cover up the incident. Facing overwhelming evidence, Rebecca Whitman and Brian Mitchell pleaded guilty to misdemeanors related to falsifying reports and were permanently barred from commercial aviation. Dennis Reynolds faced felony charges for obstruction of justice and civil rights violations. The civil trial against Skyway Airlines and Victor Preston was the main event. Zara, now a freshman at MIT, having been accepted with a full scholarship, testified with the clarity and composure she had displayed during the entire ordeal. She didn't seek to demonize but to analyze the injustice as an engineering problem, a systemic failure requiring a systemic fix. "They did not see me as a person," she testified. "They saw me as an obstacle to be removed, a stereotype to be exploited, and a weapon to use against my father. But the system they built to protect their power was too fragile. It could not withstand the transparency of a single camera and the determination of people who chose to speak the truth." The jury found in favor of Zara Williams, awarding substantial punitive damages against Skyway Airlines and Victor Preston personally. More importantly than the financial victory, The judge mandated that both Skyway and Aurora Airlines would be subject to 10 years of federal oversight for their anti-discrimination protocols. The final, decisive victory came 3 months later. Victor Preston resigned from Skyway Airlines and faced criminal charges related to the espionage against Aurora. Marcus Williams, meanwhile, finally unveiled his diversity initiative, not as a defensive measure, but as a commitment to systemic change, now universally lauded as the new industry standard. The one phone call case became a landmark example. It proved that prejudice, even when cloaked in corporate sophistication, could not survive the combined force of truth, technology, and strategic power used in the service of justice. Zara Williams went from being a victim of targeted discrimination to a powerful catalyst for industry reform. She didn't let the attack stop her. She let it fuel her. Her father, Marcus Williams, proved that true power isn't about crushing enemies quietly, but about using your influence to fix the broken systems for everyone. Preston's response to the lawsuit was immediate and aggressive. His legal team filed countersuits claiming defamation, business interference, and reckless accusations. The business press, where Preston had cultivated relationships for decades, presented the competing narratives as a he said, she said situation, rather than examining the substantial evidence the Williams family had provided. The media circus intensified. Reporters camped outside Zara's school, forcing her to attend classes remotely. Security experts Marcus hired intercepted multiple death threats against both him and his daughter. The stress manifested physically for Zara: sleepless nights, anxiety attacks, and difficulty concentrating. But she refused to withdraw, understanding that disappearing was exactly what their opponents wanted. The preliminary hearing is tomorrow, Marcus informed Zara. Preston's strategy seems to be overwhelming us with paperwork while continuing the public relations assault. Their lead attorney, Vanessa Washington, nodded grimly. They've submitted over $3,000 pages of evidence that the judge needs to review. Most of it irrelevant. Classic delay tactic to drain resources and exhaust opponents. When they arrived at the federal courthouse the following morning, the scene resembled a film premiere. Inside, the courtroom fell silent as Judge Eleanor Harmon entered. Before we begin, Judge Harmon announced, I want to be clear that I will not tolerate this courtroom becoming a media spectacle. These are serious allegations that deserve serious consideration. What followed was Preston's first major counterattack. His legal team presented a surprise witness, a flight attendant who hadn't been on the original flight, but claimed to have had problematic interactions with Zara on a previous Aurora flight. The testimony was detailed, specific, and completely fabricated. Zara watched in disbelief. More disturbing still was Judge Harmon's apparent receptiveness to this testimony, overruling multiple objections from Zara's attorneys. When they attempted to present the security footage from the actual incident, the judge seemed suddenly concerned with proper authentication protocols that hadn't been required for Preston's witnesses. As the day progressed, a chilling pattern emerged. Evidence supporting Zara's claims faced rigorous scrutiny or was delayed for further review, while Preston's submissions were accepted with minimal questioning. During a recess, Vanessa pulled Marcus and Zara into a conference room. Something's not right. We filed the security footage with proper authentication last week, but the clerk is claiming it was never received, and 3 of our key affidavits are apparently missing from the record. The implications were clear. Preston's influence extended beyond the media and into the judicial system itself. They were fighting against not just a corporation, but an entrenched power structure designed to protect its own. The afternoon session delivered the most crushing blow. Judge Harmon announced that due to inconsistencies in the evidentiary record, she was inclined to dismiss several of the Williams core claims pending further documentation. The judge was effectively gutting their case based on procedural technicalities while accepting Preston's unsubstantiated counter-narrative. As they left the courtroom, the media was already reporting a major setback for Zara's disputed claims of discrimination. For the first time since the ordeal began, Zara felt the crushing weight of defeat. The legal setback left the Williams family regrouping in their attorney's office. This goes beyond normal judicial discretion, Vanessa insisted. The systematic exclusion of our evidence suggests interference. Their strategy session was interrupted by Vanessa's assistant with an unexpected message. Officer Taylor Jackson from Hartford Airport Security was in the lobby requesting to speak with them privately. The same Officer Jackson who had shown small kindnesses to Zara during her detention. This could be another trap, Vanessa warned, but Zara shook her head. I don't think so. When Jackson entered, she was in civilian clothes, her expression a mixture of determination and fear. I shouldn't be here, she began. They're watching all of you and probably me too by now, but I can't be part of this anymore. From her bag, she produced a small digital recorder and several USB drives. I've been documenting everything since the day of the incident. Chief Reynolds knew exactly who Zara was before she even arrived at the airport. They were waiting for her specifically. The recordings were damning. In one, Reynolds could be heard instructing his staff to make an example of the Williams girl and to ensure she learned her place. In another, he explicitly ordered evidence to be altered before submission to the court. Most shocking was a recorded phone call where Reynolds discussed arrangements with someone coordinating between airport security and Judge Harmon's office. The judge knows what needs to happen, the unidentified caller assured Reynolds. Preston's team has made that very clear to her. I have Rebecca Whitman on record admitting she targeted Zara specifically because of her race, saying she was following instructions from higher up to create an incident, Jackson added, her voice steadier now. Vanessa immediately recognized the legal implications. This is evidence of witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and possibly judicial misconduct. We need to approach this carefully, Marcus nodded grimly. We need a different judge and possibly federal oversight. This goes beyond our civil case now. This is criminal conspiracy. Jackson's phone buzzed with a news alert. She paled as she read the screen. They know I'm here. Reynolds just announced an internal investigation into security officers who may have compromised protocols during the Williams incident. You can stay in one of our secure properties, Marcus offered immediately. We have resources to protect whistleblowers. Jackson's courage in the face of certain professional destruction moved Zara deeply. This was someone sacrificing everything simply because it was right. With Jackson's evidence in hand, Vanessa implemented their new strategy. Rather than returning to Judge Harmon's compromised courtroom, they filed an emergency petition with the Federal Appeals Court, including the evidence of judicial interference. Simultaneously, they contacted the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, elevating the case to potential federal prosecution. Victor Preston's smug confidence began to crack. His carefully constructed narrative had depended on controlling the legal process through Judge Harmon. Now facing potential federal scrutiny, other participants in the conspiracy started seeking distance. Brian Mitchell, the Aurora purser, contacted Vanessa about a potential immunity deal in exchange for testimony about Preston's direct involvement in planning the incident. But Preston wasn't defeated yet. His final desperate countermove came in the form of a midnight approach to Officer Jackson, a combination of bribes and threats delivered by an anonymous intermediary at the safe house where she was staying. Preston can offer $5 million for your silence or ensure you never work again anywhere in the country, the message concluded. The attempted witness tampering, however, was captured on the safe house's security system, becoming the final piece of evidence that broke the conspiracy wide open. The federal courtroom fell silent as Judge Raymond Washington delivered his ruling. This final judgment carried the somber weight of justice long, delayed but finally served. This court finds compelling evidence of an organized conspiracy to violate Ms. Williams's civil rights orchestrated by defendant Victor Preston with the cooperation of multiple co-defendants, the judge announced. The deliberate targeting of an individual based on race, the fabrication of evidence, and the attempted corruption of judicial proceedings represent an egregious abuse of power that this court cannot and will not tolerate. The judgment was comprehensive and devastating. Rebecca Whitman, Brian Mitchell, and Dennis Reynolds faced criminal charges. Judge Harmon had resigned, facing a judicial conduct investigation. Most significantly, Victor Preston himself was ordered to pay substantial damages and faced separate criminal indictments for witness tampering, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy charges that could result in prison time. For Zara, however, the most meaningful victory wasn't the monetary settlement, but the structural changes the case had sparked. The court mandated comprehensive anti-discrimination training, across all major airlines and airport security teams nationwide. 1 week after the judgment, Zara stood at a podium at MIT, where she had been accepted to the aerospace engineering program and offered a prestigious research position, before an audience of students, industry leaders, and civil rights advocates. Zara announced the creation of the Williams Justice Foundation, funded by her settlement. This foundation will provide legal support to victims of discrimination who lack the resources to fight powerful opponents, she explained. But more importantly, it will fund educational initiatives to address the root causes of discrimination in our society. She paused, making eye contact with Officer Taylor Jackson, who sat in the front row, now employed as the foundation's first program director. True justice isn't just about punishing wrongdoing. It's about transforming systems to prevent future harm. Marcus joined her to announce Aurora Airlines' new comprehensive anti-racism protocols. What happened to my daughter was not an isolated incident, but a symptom of broader structural problems, he acknowledged. As industry leaders, we have a responsibility not just to avoid discrimination ourselves, but to actively dismantle the systems that enable it. 3 years later, Zara stood in the engineering lab at MIT, putting the final touches on her revolutionary aircraft design. The path to justice had been arduous and painful, but it had led to transformation. Boarding the plane to the International Aviation Conference, Zara experienced a moment of déjà vu. But this time, the flight attendant checked her ticket with a genuine smile. The security officers nodded respectfully, and the captain himself came to welcome her aboard. As the aircraft lifted into the sky, Zara gazed out the window, reflecting on how far she had come and how many barriers had been broken. The system hadn't worked perfectly, but it had worked, aided by evidence, persistence, and the courage of individuals like Taylor Jackson, who chose principle over self-preservation. Zara's journey teaches us that justice sometimes requires both personal courage and systemic power to challenge entrenched discrimination. She leveraged her privilege not for personal vindication alone, but to create lasting change for others who would face similar discrimination without her advantages. The story reveals how racism often operates as both individual bias and coordinated institutional practice, requiring multifaceted responses at personal, corporate, and legal levels. The transformation came from refusing to settle, from becoming an architect of systemic reform. The Williams Justice Foundation and the new industry standards are the true victory. Voiceover. What moment in your life tested your courage to stand up against injustice? Have you ever witnessed discrimination and wished you had the resources to intervene? Comment below with your thoughts on how we can all work to create more just systems. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button to help others find this important message. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that expose injustice and celebrate those fighting for change. Thank you for watching, and remember, true justice transforms the world for everyone who comes after.